So the first time I got introduced really to music, I was 4 years old, and the show Mannix was playing on TV, and I went over and I played it on the piano when I was 4. And so my parents thought that I was a child prodigy, and I wasn't. I wasn't a child prodigy. I was just a guy with a good ear. So I had a stage mother who would, push me to get on stage and to get the bigger roles in Pippin and Oliver. Think about the sun, Pippin. Totally. That was my thing. I was like stage kid. I did ballet, tap dancing, and so I was just used to being on stage. And then she got me an acoustic guitar, and I stuck it under the bed because I wanted to be Billy Joel or Elton John. That's who I wanted to be. Really, Elton John. Billy Joel wasn't really around yet. I thought I was going to be a piano player. So then I saw Kiss, and that changed everything. I knew, from the instant I saw it, I knew, oh, that's what I'm going to be. And I got voted most likely to be a rock star in high school. And it was just really easy from then on. I got my first guitar. I started playing when I was 13, and on acoustic, and I learned, a few songs. I learned chords, and I taught myself how to play. And then I saw Kiss, and I went out and got the Kiss Live album, and I also got Molly Hatchet, and that changed my life because I learned every song on there, and I used to pretend I was a rock star and stand on my bed, and it was a stage, and play all the solos. And the Outlaws were great with the Green Grass and High Tides because it was just all soloing, and so I learned how to solo with that country rock kind of stuff. And I was like, Hendrix was kind of before my time, and I was into Boston and Aerosmith, and that was more my, what I learned guitar from. The first concert I ever went to was Parliament Funkadelic at Madison Square Garden with Bootsy Collins opening, and I was the only white guy in the whole place, and I had the greatest time ever and got introduced to funk, which now I just love anything funky. And then the second concert was Kiss at Madison Square Garden. My brother, who was the director of the Metropolitan Opera at the time, took me on the one day I had off from the private school I went to in upstate New York. He took me to see Kiss, and that's what did it for me, was that Kiss concert. That's when I knew. I actually thought Ace was from space, and it didn't matter because that's what I wanted to be. The first band I was in, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and there wasn't much of a music scene in Pittsburgh. It was okay, but the band I had, we only knew 6 songs, and we'd play at parties, and sometimes we'd just play those 6 songs, twice, and that would be the set. So I had my own apartment. Dad had some money, had lots of money when I was a kid, and so we had 11 acres, and I had a whole apartment that was on the property, and so I had parties, and we would jam all the time. And then I went to my bands. Oh yeah, and then a guy I knew when we used to spend time in Florida on vacation, I met a guy who was in a band, and he got me to be in his band called Fortune, and I did that for 3 or 4 years, which did the whole Lauderdale circuit, Miami, Lauderdale, the Button South, and you'd play at the same place for 2 weeks, like Art Stock's Playpen, and you'd be the house band for 2 weeks, and it was heaven. It was like living in heaven. It was one of the greatest times of my life. But I was playing Jump on the keyboards every night. I played a lot of keyboards in that band. So I got sick of it. Some of my songs got us to Star Search with Ed McMahon. And it just wasn't happening. I didn't like playing top 40 in that band, and I left. And the lead singer punched me right in the face. The first time and only time I ever got hit directly in the face with a fist. I moved to New York and got a job as a singing waiter. And that was odd, being a singing waiter. But I hung around at music stores, Manny's and Sam Ash, and Pensasur, which was called Rudy's Music Stop, and they were all on the same street, so I would hang around every day. I'd go there and play guitars and talk to the guys that worked there, and I heard about an audition for Fiona on Atlantic Records. And I went there, and it was 20 guys. It was on Long Island. with Joe Franco was playing in the band. Joe Franco and Donnie Kisselback. And Joe Franco plays with Dee Snider now. Amazing drummer. Anyway, all the guys at the audition were wearing spandex, and their hair was all, poofed out. And I was wearing this, basically, with my hoodie. And I walked in there, and they said, "You're hired." Without even hearing, they said, "If you can play guitar, like, this stuff is not hard. It's just 3 chords." So Bo Hill was the producer, and he used me on everything he did after that because I did the whole album for $500. So, and I remember him coming to me and saying, I don't want to insult you, but how's $500 sound? And I said, $500? My God, that's incredible. I hadn't even seen $500. So I got a reputation as being, a good-looking young kid who played solid guitar and good timing and fun to work with and would do it for, peanuts. And that's how I got my foot in the door with Arif Mardin, who used me on the Bee Gees and the Chaka Khan and Howard Jones. By that time, I had gotten in the union and wised up to what all the other guys did. But, just pounding the pavement with 2 gig bags on my back in New York City was a great time in my life. So Bo Hill used me on all his stuff, and he also used Kip Winger on all the same stuff. So I met Kip for the first time, and we hated each other. Absolutely. I thought he was so full of himself, just absolutely conceited. He hated me. I hated him. But we did sessions together. And we started to get along a little bit better once we worked together, to the point where what happened? Oh, no, Bo Hill asked us to write together. He said, "You guys should write together." And at this point, he was okay, and I sat down to write with him. And that changed everything, I had this riff, and it was the riff for 17. And I didn't even know it was a song. And I played it, and he said, "What's that?" And he kind of talks like this. And I said, "I don't know, it's just a riff that I play. It sounds kind of like Rat, He said, "That's a song." And I'm like, "Really?" And Kip's an arranging genius, as you know from his classical album. He arranges for strings and all that. And he can hear instantly if it's a chorus or a verse or a bridge, and he knows what keys, what options you have to go to instantly, and you write a song really fast. So we wrote 3 songs in one day, Madeleine, Time to Surrender, and 17. And I thought I just met the greatest guy in the world, and I just wanted to hang around him and learn from him, and he taught me everything I know about songwriting, and from then on we were pals, and still to this day he's my best friend, and I talk to him almost every day. Me and Kip became roommates, and then Kip went off to do Alice Cooper, and then we put Winger together. Winger, we almost didn't make it, but we were put on MTV. Rod Morgenstein had a friend at MTV, put us on Headbangers Ball at 2:55. I stayed up, and that one showing made Winger take off, and we sold a couple million records, and that was great. Our first show was with the Scorpions, and we were horrible, because we had never played together as a band, and it was in front of 10,000 people, and everything went wrong, and Kip didn't know how to talk to the audience. He just talked like he normally does, like, "You people are great, thanks a lot, great to be here," and we almost got fired, but then he changed his whole rap to be more like Klaus the next day. He was like, "You want to party?" And it was much better. And we went on to do Winger for 3 or 4 years, and then it fizzled out like everyone else from the 80s, and I was broke and had lost everything, sold all my guitars. And Kip told me about an audition for Alice Cooper, and it was in LA, and I didn't have enough money to get there, so I borrowed it from Kip, and $500, and went to the audition for Alice. And the only reason, I was so nervous. Everyone was there, Warren DeMartini. The only reason that I got it, Alice Cooper, is because I sang. He did the song Poison, and I, got up the mic and went, "Poison," and the first record I did with Alice was the live album. Maybe the only record I did with Alice was a live album, which they stupidly filmed on our first gig ever. So the first gig I ever did with Alice was their live album. I hadn't practiced any solos. I just was kind of improv the whole night. But I did get to jam with Slash and Sammy Hagar, and I partied with Slash, and that was a wonderful experience. He was very, very sweet and nice to me. And so, I did Alice for 4 years, which was cool. I met a lot of great musicians that are still my friends today. And I remember telling Alice hey, this other gig has come up, and I got to take it because it's just more of a guitar-oriented gig for like one guy. It was Dawkins, replacing George Lynch, which no one could ever do, I know, but taking that spot, which is some big shoes to fill. And Alice understood. He was really cool about it. He said, Alice Cooper is just a stepping stone for great musicians. And I thought that was very sweet of him. And he was like a father to me. And I learned more from him than from anybody. Dawkins was the most fun gig I've ever done because we just drank the whole time. And basically, as long as you showed up, that's really all you had to do. And also, I could solo for like 5 hours because Don would just leave the stage. He'd sing one verse and chorus, and then he'd leave and go smoke a cigarette, and I would just jam for like 5 minutes. So that was a really, really fun gig. That was the biggest party of my life for those years. And then we were scheduled to open for Whitesnake, and I got the Whitesnake gig. So I had to call Don and tell him that he's opening for me now, and that was really something to be able to do that. But Don and I are super close these days, and he's really a good friend and really fun. I love Don. And I got the Whitesnake gig through Kip again. He got me the contact to send my stuff. So if it wasn't for Kip Winger, I wouldn't have had any of these gigs. I've been in Whitesnake now for 13 years. David is so good to me. He's a great boss. And, the music's great. It's perfect for me, actually. It's right up my alley. And I do feel like a rock star in this band, and I hope it continues for as long as it can, because I'm sure having fun out here.